BRICS Africa channel. We're in conversation with Mr. Geness, a geopolitical specialist. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Prof. Tembe, for having me here on this auspicious occasion in our country. What a wonderful moment it is for us.
Yes. May you please elaborate for us the task force that you are one of the leaders, especially in regards to AI?
Prof. Tembe, maybe I should take it back a bit because it's a BRICS channel.
Yes.
I was the chair of the deregulation working group for the BRICS Business Council for a number of terms. And I should say that the BRICS has played quite a strategic role to bringing us to where we are. Because out of that BRICS deregulation working group emanated the BRICS Digital Economy Group.
Yes.
And at the time, AI was obviously in the background, and that has moved on quite significantly over a period of time. Prof, I had the honor of addressing the AI Task Force meeting, which took place in Quebec earlier this year around March. And at the meeting, I was requested by the working group to address skills development in the country, particularly around artificial intelligence. And I took the liberty in my capacity and role as the Global Government Affairs Director for SAP to outline some of the programs that we had implemented leading up to this point of 2025. Prof, maybe then to give some context around that AI is a rapidly evolving space.
Exactly.
But Africans cannot be left behind. Most of the functionality, the regulatory frameworks around artificial intelligence are developed in the global north. And it doesn't take into account our Africanism, the concept of Ubuntu, the concept of culture, responsiveness to culture, etc. But at the AI Task Force, I was able to articulate in broad terms some of the work that we had done, first and foremost with the Africa Code Week program. And during the Africa Code Week program, what we actually undertook was the training of more than 24 million young Africans on MIT Scratch, the building blocks. And most people say, why coding? Why did you start that? Coding is much more than the game that you see coming out of it or the algorithm that is developed. It's also about wiring the mind into thinking. Prof, as you know, as an academic as well, our minds, some of the things we think of sequentially.
Exactly.
When you get up in the morning, hopefully you put your socks on before you put your shoes.
Exactly.
And there's a sequence. But whilst you put your shoe on, you also have your coffee cup in your hand. And that's happening at the same time. So teaching young people about sequential aspects of coding, aspects that can happen simultaneously, and a hybrid of that using freely available MIT Scratch. Now, Prof, that program was quite interesting because from 2016, it rapidly expanded until more recent times where we handed that over to the United Nations and other countries to develop. But the whole purpose behind that was to stimulate within the education system the need for coding, but not only coding, 21st century thinking to be inculcated. And we've seen as a result of that, many countries putting in place coding, robotics, machine learning, some aspects of it into the school curriculum.
Yes.
Another interesting program that we institutionalized was the first Lego League robotics program. And that program in particular, over the last sort of 15 years, we've been involved with that. And what we've been doing there is taking young people and bringing them through a process of understanding, firstly, the coding of a robot. The second thing is they normally are themes, energy, water, conservation, etc. Researching those themes, then presenting it. And the fourth area that the teams are assessed on is the teamwork. And many of these young individuals who have been through this program today are studying engineering. They are studying robotics. They are studying aeronautical engineering. And it comes down to the point that Africans need to be inspired, but by their own. They don't need to see on a television somebody in the United States who's putting some kind of a show up there.
Yes.
We need to be inspired by our own. And that speaks to innovation and creating the platforms for innovation. So, Prof, if we extend that further, we have another program at SAP, which is the Young Professionals Program. And what we do there is we take young graduates who are unemployed, we bring them in, but before that, we take them, Prof, we look into the marketplace to establish what actual SAP skills are required.
Required, yes.
So it's not a training program, it's a job creation program. And once they go through this program, they are then given a minimum of 18 to sometime up to 24 months of guaranteed employment. And we say if we've skilled you in a rare skill and we give you the opportunity for the job, you should be able to retain your job because it's a skill that's required. Our retention rate there is about 98%. The other 2% are gone globally. So that's the second program I want to touch on, Prof. The more recent program, Prof, that we've put in place around this whole concept of digital upskilling, and I'm using a broad term because that
Yes.
includes AI.
Exactly.
It also includes machine learning, Prof. Is our Educate to Employ program. And this program, we run it in partnership with UNICEF. UNICEF has a program called Generation Unlimited. And in that banner of Generation Unlimited is the Educate to Employ. Now, it's a fancy word, but actually it means learning to earn.
Exactly.
Right? Prof, you and I, we are academics. But somebody empowered us to become an academic.
To be where we are.
Right, to be where we are. Everyone was given a chance in life. This program is unique because we also take young people at risk. Those who couldn't go to university, whatever could have happened, maybe in the grade 12, the parent has passed away, or they don't have the financial means, or they could be afflicted with injury. And we recruit these at-risk individuals into the program. Currently, we're driving the program in Nigeria, in Kenya, and South Africa. And you won't believe, we had 300 places available, 100 per country. We had 18,000 applications plus.
For 300?
Yeah. However, we took the 300, but the rest of them, we have another platform that we use, which is YOMA. Now, I'll come back to Educate to Employ. So what YOMA does is it gives young people the opportunity to have microcredits. And as they aggregate microcredits, they get a token. When they aggregate the token, they get a certification, which they can then attach to their CVs. So the ones who didn't make the Educate to Employ program have gone into that program.
Yes.
In the Educate to Employ program, we bring them into SAP modules. And we use what we call our SAP Learning Hub.
Yeah.
This Learning Hub is available online. So they can study at their own pace. And we also fund a company, a local company through UNICEF called Umuzi to work on this program and provide guidance as they're learning around areas they may not know. Because you know what it is, the first time you and I touched the computer, we didn't know everything. Exactly. We're not born with these skills, Prof. So what we've seen is the first batches that we've taken in, many of those individuals have become employed. Some of them in our ecosystem. Others, they go to our competition here and there, but most of it is in our ecosystem. But Prof, with the concept of Ubuntu, you don't look at life that way. You look at having empowered an African to take his or her rightful place in the economy. So those were the type of programs I touched on during the AI task force. And the representatives of government that were there, they were very encouraged and enthused by that. That we could so early on, almost 10 years ago, start with programs which are impacting us now. And that is the thing, Prof, that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. But the next best time is today.
It's today. Yes.
And that's the philosophy. And our African wisdom teaches us this.
Yes.
We have to embed what we want in the future now. So these are some of the aspects that we've included. We've also touched on some inputs in the digital economy as well, which is a wider sense of what's happening. But maybe another aspect, Prof, to touch on whilst we're here on this very important day is the G20 itself. As far as I'm concerned, this G20 is one of the most successful G20s that have been hosted. In terms of the lead up, in terms of the working group, what the South African government has done to welcome delegates, both public, private, and delegates within the space of what I will call the NGO arena as well, has been nothing short of fantastic. And the two panels, the one which is the expert panel chaired by our former Minister Manuel, who incidentally at the B20 ran to me and said, please, I only trust you to take a picture with these two people would be incented.
Yeah.
And I reminded him that we once worked together when I was in the South African government. But that panel and its recommendations are very important. And I want to touch on that. One of the key things being recommended is that we make finance available. Prof, you know the IMF, when they purchased gold, and they have gold reserves, they paid $50 an ounce.
$50.
$50 an ounce.
Yes.
Today, that very gold and the reserve that they hold is $4,000
An ounce.
an ounce. That is a hyper return on a mineral. So what the panel has said is, let's look at that. We can use the delta between 50 per ounce and 4,000 an ounce, and then we can use that as collateral to set up a fund that can be utilized by developing nations. And I think that's something that has to be negotiated with the IMF, which, as you know, is a pillar within the World Bank group, so to speak. Prof, imagine if there was better lending terms for African countries. And the report also points out something else which is stark. More than 50% of countries in Africa pay more on debt servicing than they do on education and social security services.
That must be absurd. Doctor.
It's madness.
Counterintuitive.
Completely, Prof. Counterintuitive. It also is the making of a destruction of a people. Because this funnel will get narrower and narrower until it reaches the necks of these governments. And then they become an absolute failed state. And then the countries out there look at it and say, this has become a failed state. But we don't look at the nub of matters, which is the way it is financed. In that expert report, it also touches, Prof, on another aspect of multilateralism and the development banks. So today, if a development bank gives South Africa a fund amount, it comes with conditionality. Over and above the fact that you need to pay back that debt, it also comes with conditionality, which restricts you as to what you can do. Of course, there must be the checks and balances in place. So I just touched lightly on the expert group panel. The extraordinary expert group panel is the one I really want us to explore. You know, Stiglitz is one of my academic heroes. And he's written several books over a period of time. And being the chair of that committee was quite important, together with other leading lights. But the report shows that in the last several years, 40% of the world's wealth has gone to 1% of the people.
40%.
40%.
Has gone to 1% of the people.
1% of the world's population.
Mm.
And then we say South Africa has a problem because we have a Gini coefficient, which is one of the largest in the world.
In the world.
But this is a global problem. It is not only a problem that is affecting South Africa. And that's the rise of billionaires. It's the rise of the wealthy. It's the rise of the privileged. We all know from the time of the French Revolution what can happen when the masses decide enough is enough.
Enough is enough. And we can't afford that.
We can't afford that. We cannot afford that.
Mm.
The other aspects in the report are self-explanatory, but I think that leading statistic is something that all of us need to think about, even in this country. We are not short of resources to service the hungry. Because this money game, it's a game in the first instance. You have countries who contribute towards funding in the World Bank, etc.
Yes.
And it's defined where it goes. When the money is defined where it goes to, the consultants often that operate in that space may not be local consultants. So we need a hybrid. Yes, we do need assistance from developed countries. Let's not shy away from that. But we also need to ensure that local talent is developed in the process.
Yes.
Right. Now, I want to come back, Prof, with your permission, to this AI regulatory framework. Now, at the moment, if you look at the world is structured in 3 platforms or 3 verticals. China to the east, which has a mixture of very strong regulation, very strong regulations, which is dependent on the ministries that are implementing AI, and then some more adaptive AI frameworks. So we call it some kind of a hybrid framework. You have the European Act that's been put in place, which is very specific. It looks at the regulatory framework right down to a monitoring organization on EU policies and the implementation of AI. And then you have the states, except for California, which has an adaptive framework. But Africa is out of this game at the moment. Until this G20, it's the first time an African country is leading the conversation on AI. And therefore, within that conversation on AI, the concept of Ubuntu is important. The concept of understanding Africa's capacity. Our compute power is less than 1% of the global compute power.
Yes.
Which is a challenge. Our capacity development in AI needs to be jacked up. Earlier this year, I attended the World Economic Forum AI on Africa event in Rwanda. And even at that stage, they were saying, look, we want to put together a fund of 60 billion. It's a broad commitment of 60 billion, but to see that 60 billion come down to the ground and how it actually becomes granular, that is where the rubber hits the road, and we need to work on that. So just moving on that trajectory of AI, in South Africa, we have an AI policy framework that is put in place. It's now doing its rounds, going through different committees before it arrives at the National Assembly and the NCOP to approve that. Within that, what the Department of Comms has done very well is they have set up a national committee that oversees this process, and that comprises of everyone from non-profits right to private sector and global companies in terms of what they could be doing, and that's very helpful.
Yes.
Prof, I think this conversation will not be complete if I didn't talk about social entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And with my SAP hat on, I could say that, our corporate social responsibility focuses on 2 areas. The one is 21st century digital skills. The other is enabling social enterprises. And an organization that we've been working with is Catalyst 2030, which is set up a sub-organization called Africa Forward, which is focusing on enabling the social entrepreneurs to become successful. And then we hosted over the last 3 days leading up to this, the side event, an official side event on that.
Okay.
And it was amazing to see that how much of support social entrepreneurs need. I'm a product of a social entrepreneur, my mother. She used to
Yes.
buy fabric at X and sell it at X plus 20%.
Mm.
And that's how, we were put through school. Heaven knows how our food, we got our food at home during that time. So these were certain aspects that I found to be very touching. And we've worked together with the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, DTI, to start crafting what are the beginnings for regulatory framework for social entrepreneurs. And that speaks to your person at a taxi rank.
Exactly.
That speaks to a Goko who's living in Soweto or someone in the urban areas, that they're part of this economy and we recognize them. Prof, you know that access to funding has been really a challenge,
Yes.
particularly for the majority in this country.
This can, yeah.
And we're saying that social entrepreneurs must be looked at the same way you look at any other business, because they are generating profit while doing good.
Exactly.
At SAP, what we do is our barristers, we have a group called I Love Coffee.
Yes.
And yes, they are a business, but they hire barristers who are deaf. Or I would not say deaf, that's a wide, a very specific term. I would say hearing impaired. That's the correct term
Yes.
to use. Some of them can hear, but here and there. So they work in that. And companies need to start thinking about what percentage of their procurement, global companies, they're
Yes.
spending. Because if you can get a same or similar product quality from a social entrepreneur, then do that, because that social entrepreneur supports 20 or 30 other people.
Snowball effect.
Exactly.
Trickle down effect.
Correct. So in our country, someone might call it black tax effect. But for me, the black tax is actually a needed thing, because every community has that. We just labeling ourselves. We all know that. If you're part of a community, you support each other. That's how the community moves forward.
Before we lose AI, let me just be the devil's advocate somewhere.
Yes, sure.
We know there's an issue of funding. We know we lag behind in terms of technology,
Right.
not knowledge, but in technical terms. But also, what you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation was this issue that the global north and China, they've all moved strides. We are lagging behind. Now, won't that impact on our generation as they develop with AI? Because machine learning and all those things are done mostly in areas that are outside us. As you mentioned also, we have to take the ethic of Ubuntu in our machine learning so that it is specific for our specific conditions. How are we going to balance that?
I think there's this concept called parachuting.
Yes.
We need to parachute our people into the bleeding edge of technology.
Yes.
So whatever is the latest, we need to get them upskilled on that. Yes, you need the bedrock building and so on,
Exactly.
but we need to parachute them into the latest and greatest technology, that they understand how to use it, not abuse it, because you get a lot of side effects of this technology. And we need to become a more forgiving society. People must be able to fail. Remember, failure was not an option in our time,
No, was not an option.
because you had a cane stick or you had we call it the palmer, right?
Yes.
So you had one of those that were you given to you. You fail.
Yes.
So failing is part of development, because we don't learn enough, and I don't think enough people have failed enough in their lives to understand what it takes to do something,
To succeed.
to succeed.
Yes.
So we can parachute them. I think that would be tremendous. And at the same time, we need to invest in compute power.
Yes.
Cassava Technologies is a company chaired by Strife, Zimbabwean billionaire, who's looking to invest and get more compute power on the continent. We need more of that happening. Data centers. Africa has very few data centers,
Yes.
right? We need the data centers to be installed in Africa, so that the speed of computation is faster, for one. And that when it comes to sovereignty of data,
Yes.
if a country says, I want to keep that data within my boundaries, then have the data center in the country. We must be able to do
Yes.
that.
Mm.
We have the Technology Innovation Agency in South Africa, which
Yes.
does support technology enablement,
Yes.
startups, etc. SARS has, I think, a concession that is made
Yes.
for companies that are doing high-tech capacity and so on and so forth that can be leveraged. The DTIC needs to look at its grant making environment, and the soft loan environment needs to become more forgiving when it comes to entrepreneurs.
In conclusion, if in the speech of today in the morning and in the resolutions of this G20, which point specifically speaks to these recommendations that you have mentioned,
I think,
and what is the point of implementation?
correct. Prof, the points that really stuck with me was favorable financial conditions
Yes.
for developing countries and the global south. That's the first thing. The second aspect is leaving no one behind.
Yes.
It's key. It should not just be a term.
Mm.
And the third aspect is on the African continent, we need to work towards more peace, because when we are at peace, any country operates at best.
Yes.
These three have stood out for me. In terms of South Africa's G20 presidency, we are blessed with the fact that an engagement framework by finance ministers has been approved in October, which has a 5-year plan,
Exactly.
which means whatever has come out of this G20 will be implemented in that 5-year engagement framework.
Yes.
And we should be able to monitor that, measure it, have KPIs, but there should also be some cross-monitoring by the South African G20 presidency on the key aspects that were raised in this presidency to see how it moves forward within the United States with all the challenges that we're having. And I should also mention that the American business has been highly supportive. They've been here in their droves. I've been at the B20, at the Social Summit, and so on over the last 3 to 5 days. And I can tell you without any doubt that if we're able to do this, this presidency's legacy will remain untested. I spoke earlier on with Selo Atanga, and they're looking at putting in place a G20 Legacy Institute. And I suppose that's where the call may be made for private sector, the non-profit sector, government, social entrepreneurs to come together to make sure that we get the best out of this.
Okay. Thank you very much for insightful listening.
Professor,
And
thank you.
congratulations again on all the initiatives that you've just mentioned and your job at SAP. Congratulations. Thank you very much.